Bir dakika. İzin vermedi benim Mac ayarları biraz siz paylaşsanız daha iyi olacak herhalde. Onunla
Tamam hocam. O
uğraşmayayım
zaman bir
şimdi.
iki dakikanızı daha rica ediyorum. Gelen varsa çünkü sonra ekran paylaşınca kabul etmeyebiliyor göremeyebiliyorum yani.
Bekleyelim biraz isterseniz.
Tamam.
Tamam. Henüz başlamadı, kayıt da başlamadı değil mi?
Kayıt başlamış olmalı şu anda. Size bir bildirim gelmedi mi kaydın başladığına dair?
Hayır. Fark etmedim. Belki şeyle uğraşırken.
Kayıt başladığına dair bildirim geldi hocam.
Dilerseniz yavaştan başlayalım hocam. Ben artık yakalamaya çalışacağım gelen başka istekler olursa.
Tamam.
Şimdi ekranı paylaşıyorum.
Tamam.
Görünüyor mu acaba?
Evet.
Tamamdır.
Hello everyone. Is everybody here then? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? All right. Okay, we're going to be talking about 21st century integration into the classroom applications in terms of digital or printed readers in second language or foreign language teacher education. These terms are used interchangeably, second or foreign language teacher education, but we mostly call it ELT teacher education in Turkey. But I think English as a foreign language teacher education is the best term for Turkey, indeed. All right. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about today mostly the first critical thinking, and then we're going to be having a look at the class readers, and then we're going to be finding ways to integrate critical thinking into the class readers teaching. Okay, so first of all, everybody's talking about 21st century skills today. Are they new? No, they're not new. They're coming from Socratic era in the past, but we hear it too many times today, very often, because it has become a trend to talk about 21st century skills after the the technological revolution, let's say, in education, and how to put the practice of thinking into this very rapid, very, very fast technological learning and teaching applications. All right, so 21st century skills, what are they first? Let's see that. You know them, of course, yeah. Let's have a look at them. So what are they? What are they for? Can we get the next slide, please? Yeah. All right. So, right, they are described in the World Economic Forum report. So that's a new vision for education. The report is about that, fostering social and emotional learning through technology. And then, as I told you, technology and critical thinking is one step beyond that. How could we include all as they are described in the report? All right. Next one, please. Yeah. Yes. Also, while thinking about critical thinking and integration of that into the classroom through class readers, of course, on the one side of our brain, we've got cultural, cognitive, and physical aspects of human beings in learning. All right. So there are lots of paradigms about it. Let's have a look at 3 paradigms that I found that people use a lot. So I did not, of course, form them, construct them, but they were already in the internet. So let's look at the first one to remember what 21st century skills are integrating. Can we look at the first one, please, with the next slide? Yeah. All right. Let's remember its place among the other skills as well. So today we are talking about life and career skills. We are talking about learning and innovation skills because technology is quite trendy and very, very actually common. And information media, technology skills, and all of them should have connections with 21st century themes, which we will be just having a look at in a moment. So, of course, while mentioning all of them, we have to be remembering, recalling evaluation of learning, curriculum and instruction, curriculum and teaching, professional development of teachers mostly, and also all of them take place in a landscape, which is the learning teaching environment. All right. So when we look at the 21st century skills, normally we just deal with 5 of them, which are very common, but actually they are grouped. They are in a way categorized. So when we look at the foundation literacies related to the 21st century skills, literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, cultural and civic literacy. When we look at the competences, we see critical thinking, which we are going to be dealing with today, creativity, communication, and collaboration. This is a pack of skills, 21st century skills that we mostly talk about in education. Critical thinking skills, creativity, communication, and collaboration. We call them 4 C's. So we mostly visit them to find the ways of integrating them into our teaching and also learning, of course. Teachers learn as well. Learners learn and teachers learn as well. So can we go back to the previous slide, please? And yeah, so we've got also how students are getting an approach to all of these. There are also other skills here: curiosity, initiative, persistency, adaptability, leadership, social and cultural awareness. I give a lot of importance to awareness, all kinds of awareness, but indeed, without awareness, we cannot be talking about critical thinking as well. All right. So, can we go please with the next slide? I think it was more practical if I did it. All right. So, while talking about the previous slide, which we're talking about curriculum and evaluation and social, emotional, physical, cognitive aspects of learning, culture, innovation, technology. So we see that it's a pack of things. So what remains in our minds mostly how students will be creative, how students will be communicative, how students will be using technological skills, how students will be using their minds, cognition critically. All right. So, okay, next one, please. Right. we cannot count all of the skills integrated as sub-skills with these 21st century skills, but we'll remember lots of components of, for example, creativity. What are the components of creativity? For example, production, thinking, deep thinking. When we look at, for example, citizenship, collaboration, leadership, we're going to be remembering here, recalling here, what characteristics do we need for being a good citizen? What kind of collaboration is needed? What kind of leadership is needed? So we've got many questions in our minds. To go through all of these towards the class readers as our tools today, right? Next slide, please. How can we teach these skills? I think, I'm sorry, the word is not written here. Teach these skills. That's a big question for teachers, for student teachers. How will you organize your teaching in the future as prospective teachers? What will you do to integrate all of these? Because there are lots of things to think about as prospective teachers. What are you going to think while designing your syllabus, while designing your lesson plan, while designing your activities? All right, so what we mean with critical thinking, information discovery. Discovery is a key word because not everything is given to us already, but we students, I mean, not we teacher educators, students should be looking for the ways to reach up the information and to interpret it, to make a meaning, to internalize it, to personalize it. So there are a lot of processes over here. Interpretation, analysis, reasoning, constructing arguments, problem solving, systems thinking. Yes, there are very important, significant procedures here, but there is a way, a route to all of them. If we do not place them in our minds as teachers, everything will be very haphazard and very complicated. It should not be there. So as teachers, we should be prepared how to use them in a flow and also to put them in a very good order that we could be having benefits from using them. All right, so can we go back to the previous slide, please, because I haven't completed yet. Yes. So again, for collaboration, leadership, initiative, cooperation, flexibility, responsibility. I think responsibility is another key word because every learner should take the responsibility of their own learning, like awareness. So for becoming aware, it should start with responsibility of learning and how should the student be responsible for learning. And then she could be creative, generating ideas and designing ideas, being open, being courageous to explore, to work creatively with others and produce and innovate things. And also for this, we need communication to do all of these. So how effective listening, becomes very actually strong in listening and understanding others, because we cannot produce anything if we do not understand. So effective listening is one of the key things over here, and communication is based on effective listening, and creative and critical thinking is based on understanding, comprehending things. So mostly teachers ask questions to students and they're not given time for producing questions, which creates a problem in this effective listening and producing procedure. In between, what they need is actually comprehending well and then being able to detect it, to be able to produce questions, and while asking also their learning is going on. And also discussions, communicating in diverse environments, and it has got a lot of pillars. So why doing this? We always remember, of course, taxonomies. So how will I put them in a design? How will I just help my students think more easily, create more easily, produce more easily? So we need a methodology for that. We need a route for that, of course. So we always remember Bloom's taxonomy, or Bloom's actually adapted taxonomy. The taxonomy was adapted by several educators. So we're going to be looking at one of the most known ones now. All right. Can we go through with the next slide, please? All right. So if we're thinking about the teachers, because your role is being a teacher, so how will you help your students with critical thinking and problem solving? So providing opportunities, really. So are we going to be able to provide opportunities, for example, reading, class readers, for students to think critically? In a moment, we have to be just answering this question. And so if we help them, provide opportunities for them, are they going to be developed and demonstrate some skills, essential skills? What, for example, what essential skills are we talking about? Thinking properly, comprehending, categorizing the information, what information is needed to be able to going on with the next step. So everything there in the brain, sometimes not very organized. So thinking critically and trying to sort out the problems help to be organized in terms of cognitive skills as well. So of course, collaboration, communication, and creativity and innovative actions help teachers help their students to be collaborative, communicative, and creative and innovative. For example, creating some structures. Structures here means designs, strategies, framework for providing opportunities again and evaluating students' performances, and providing opportunities for students to demonstrate and develop again essential skills for being able to creative and innovative. All right, that was a very short and brief recalling what critical thinking actually is related to: collaboration, communication, creativity, and innovation. So can we now detect the route to reading critically, but class readers we're talking about? Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. So in the original taxonomy, you'll remember that in Bloom's taxonomy, first we meet up with the information, then we comprehend it, and then we analyze it, and then we just try to understand and analyze it, of course. And then we evaluate it, we use it, evaluate it, and the process was finishing that. For example, Andrew Church proposed another adapted taxonomy. There, the teacher is actually described as a risk taker, collaborator, a model, leader, visionary, learner, communicator, adapter. And the same things are proposed by the teacher to the students as well. So what the teacher does is proposed for the students as well, because teacher is the learner as well. We should not forget this. Okay, can we go on, please? And can we go on with the next slide? Not this one. and one more, two more, please. Yeah. Yes. So what I've talked about is that the original taxonomy was finishing with evaluation, but today with new adapted taxonomies, it's going on with ongoing the action of creating. It's going on like that, and new taxonomies will be created as well. So what does it tell us? Thinking critically begins with a very basic thinking mechanism. After we meet up with the information, and we do not evaluate the knowledge we've got and what we could do with it, but also we try to create things with it, unlike the original taxonomy, which was ending in evaluation step. All right, let's go on with the next slide, please. Now, to talk about reading to combine with critical thinking skills. So we'll remember, while talking about class readers and critical thinking, we'll remember, of course, these taxonomies. So meeting up with information, analyze it, understand it, analyze it. But today, we do not stop with evaluation, we go on with creation. So we're not forgetting it at the moment. All right, so reading is, of course, very, very basic skill of languages. So next, can you go on with the slides a bit when I finish? Yeah. All right. So reading, as known, it's an important source as a receptive skill because it provides information which starts with the first step after taxonomies, meeting with, encountering, seeing, listening, watching the information. All right then. So with this pack of information, learners of languages, foreign languages, second languages, any languages, all right, they have a process as well in their minds. Receptively, they process the information to be able to produce later. That lots of educators call this process, in different ways. You'll remember Krashen's input output hypothesis. Since reading is a receptive skill, what we expect is to have productive skills in the end, such as speaking and writing, and reading is a very good source for production. All right, so there are different types of reading. There are different types of reading sources. We read by books, we read many, materials today with digital ebooks and everything. So there's a pile of materials that we have reading with. What about class readers? In the next one, we're going to be just looking at that. The next one, please. Yeah. What is a class reader? Class reader is a storybook. So we've got many kinds of class readers. Class readers are storybooks depending on students' interests, cultural background, language level, age, very good source of triggering learning in class, outside classroom, at home, everywhere. So we've got types of class readers, of course. You'll remember with the next slide. Yeah, they could be original, they could be shortened, they could be simplified, they could be abridged, they could be adapted. Original ones are the ones not changed with the original content, and shortened ones are shortened because of the age and the level of the learners, and simplification is made, adaptation is made because of adaptation, because of the age and level of the students. So even the most known, very important novels are simplified, shortened, abridged, adapted, and served for even primary school kids and secondary school kids, or for anyone that could be used in the class with many purposes, right? It could be interest, it could be, It could be fun. It could be, it could be for learning. It could be for receptively getting information. It could be cultural. It could be anything. But a big source of having information, reaching up information, so for being able to produce later. Do we need critical eye and critical thinking? Can it start from early ages? That's the question. Of course, we cannot apply the same critical thinking strategies with younger groups, but in my talk, I'll be talking about how to integrate from early ages the first steps of critical thinking, although it's a very mature thing for older learners to follow the steps based on discovery. And we know that in most of the skills, for example, in grammar, young actually learners, very young learners, primary school kids and preschool kids, for example, cannot apply the critical thinking strategies. But with class readers, we could have the first actually steps of that. So later they could develop those skills and they could be good critical thinkers and they could have better critical thinking skills. Why do we use class readers? For motivation, for contextual learning. It's very important in language learning because we need a context. Without a context, reading will not be meaningful, because reading means helping students making their own meanings in their inner worlds within the context. They read things and from their stance, they create new meanings. But first thing, of course, should be to understand what the meaning in the content. After understanding it, they start making their own meanings. What about can we get the font a bit bigger? Is it possible to yeah, for everybody to see it quite clearly? And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. The first point of exposure, right? Since they are not native speakers, with class readers written in the native tongue, English in this case, it's a very good source to be able to reach up the native's language, to the exposure to the native form, original form of the language. Although simplified, class readers present a very good bunch of actually language in terms of being original, authentic, real. And also it provides cultural enrichment. So they learn a lot of cultural things when they read books. Even in the primary school class readers, we've got a bunch of cultural points. Personal involvement, so they look at the class reader from their own perspective while reading. So I talked about meaning making, which begins with, which begins with understanding first what is given, and then with imaginary, with images, with their imagination, they develop it, they improve it. And also syllabus, to cover the syllabus. It's a very good way of having class readers, because if there are some structural elements, vocabulary elements, if there are, pronunciation, phonology elements, the best way, the best place, the best context to practice them is a class reader, because we've got the recordings along with class readers, visual recordings and also audio recordings, which will help students to actually hear, see, read. A very, very good source of being able to use all of the skills for language improvement. And vocabulary. So a chance for practicing vocabulary in the context, communication with the text, with the characters, and later to share with others next to them about the characters and the content. It's a source of communication with others as well. So the first communication is with the text, characters, the context, whatever, and then later about the book, about the class reader, students are having a chance to communicate with others related to the content, the story in it, the characters, and everything. Registers. So there are different types of languages, language registers, I mean. For example, a doctor and a patient, a teacher, a student, a shop assistant and a customer. There are a lot of registers in the world in terms of the language, and they are revealed in such class readers, and students learn those registers in the class readers. A traveler, for example, a captain. So a lot of different registers are present in class readers for students to practice those registers, even if they are not, they cannot be in real life and related to, I'm sorry, in real life. So collaboration, digital possibilities. Collaboration, how collaboration is possible. So class readers provide opportunities to talk in the groups, to talk with friends, peers, mates, whatever we call. So a good source of discussion, a good source of conversation, a good source of sharing, exchange of ideas. All right, so we've got lots of reasons to use class readers for being exposed to a foreign language. But of course, today we're going to be looking at the ways of critical thinking along with these properties. Okay, what about the next slide, please? Let's go on with that. Okay, so all of these characteristics of a class reader, properties of a class reader, makes it very valuable for social, interactive, personal, and private activity. So these, if you talk about personal, as a personal activity, it's thinking, about thinking, individual thinking. If you talk about interactive and social activity, then collaboration we talk about. And I like Etienne Wenger saying, learning begins in the mind of the individual, but is completed in the minds of collective activity. I'm so sorry. In a groups or community. So we call these communities of practice, learning communities. So class readers are very useful for creating learning communities for collaboration, because there's a story to share. There are ongoing flow of events. So there are lots of things to share, to talk about, to exchange, to interpret. A very good source for learning, which begins in the mind of the individual, but, you know, ending in the collective action. So it is, because of that, very, very beneficial in creating learning communities. All right. And next slide, please. Can we go on with that? We just, yes. Why do we use a language? We've got a purpose to use it. We've got a purpose of communication, and so just because of that, we use stories and lots of contents to serve for this purpose. So, but there could be problems, of course. We never deny the problems in reading. With the next slide, we could be having a look at that. Problems in reading, you know, are always there. Maybe class readers, collaborative work with class readers could sort it out or not. let's see. So what kind of problems can we have with readers or class readers or all kind of readers? All right. So of course, there could be difficulty in learners' communicative competence to maintain interest and, you know, the supplementation of the materials, so that because of that they cannot reach up very easily, and how much of the target language is used in lots of things. But from the other side, if you look at it positively, of course they can help they can help learners develop their communicative competence by collaborative work, and they can, you know, contribute to their interest development, and it could create a lot of student oriented activities, and also there's a way of exploration, personal exploration, always. Also, there are a lot of opportunities to use the target language. So we could be looking at the problems from both sides. All right. And yes. So when we look at the problems and also pros and cons, when we look at them like that, if they are reluctant, bored, lazy, unwilling, uninterested, unresponsive, unconcerned, unfamiliar, unaware, incapable, or, you know, not motivated, maybe such strategies, critical thinking strategies, would help. All right. Yes, as we know, we could read the class readers aloud, but for what? For, of course, pronunciation. It's not for understanding. There's a misuse of it. So reading aloud is used, unfortunately, inaccurately in most of the classes, reading but one by one. It's not about meaning, it's about pronunciation. I wish teachers could use it more appropriately just for pronunciation work, and silent reading for individual understanding, but to organize it as jigsaw, for example, necessary. So jigsaw means sharing the parts, reading silently, exchange those parts to share them, and then for having time, gaining time. It's a very good activity. And there are problematic areas such as vocabulary, looking up a dictionary and selecting ideas, main ideas, etc. There are lots of problems while reading, which strategy will be chosen, etc. So teachers should decide accordingly what is the main aim for reading the class reader. Is it for dealing with vocabulary? Is it for first? So you have to organize it. First, understanding the general thing to pick up general context clues, and then for understanding vocabulary to pick up context clues, and then to deal with the scanning strategies to pick up the important components and events, and it goes on like that. Of course, these are explained by some theories in reading. So schema theory, for example, at the beginning of reading, remembering all background information and knowledge without asking about the new things, but just to connect with previous known vocabulary, for example, or ideas. So bottom-up reading activities, starting from small bits, for example, characters, quotations, and some components such as the events, places, time, etc. in it. And guessing games are always good for using them in later, for discovery sessions of critical thinking. And jigsaw reading, as I told you, is a good silent reading strategy for sharing what is read, not to spend a lot of time, everybody to read everything from the beginning till the end alone. All right, so, okay, we know that there are lots of strategies or skills or techniques while we are reading. We use them. So it could be recognition of a vocabulary, imprinting, for example, being careful about a character's name, for example, selection to choose one word, for example, elimination to understand which ones are the characters, which ones are the places, which ones are the places, for example, deduction, making decisions, bringing about ideas by looking at the hints, clues, for example, cohesion, being able to connect some pieces of reading what you read in the story, for example. Interpretation, what you read, you make your own meaning, as I told you before. Personalization, your own stance. Is the Red Riding Hood a nice story or a bad story from your stance, for example, as a student, from your age, from your level? So these are all strategies, techniques, or activities to be used for detecting the class readers. All right, let's go on. For class readers, it's the first step should not be opening the book and starting to read it. For being able to reach up some critical thinking skills. For pre-reading, for example, we have to be looking at the front cover. We have to be looking at the back cover. We have to be looking at the title. We have to be looking at the subtitles. We have to be looking at word search and some plot games, quotes from the story, pictures from the story, voice recordings, soundtracks. So before starting the book, if you pick up some things and work on them, it's going to be a very good pre-reading phase for the students to make guesses, produce guesses, what's going on in the story, to work with their imagination. It's very good for their creativity later. So for class readers, the best thing is not to give an order of the books to be read in the class. So the first the activities, pre-reading activities, should be unpacking the class reader before reading it. So guessing and prediction games on the previous slide would be wonderful for students to make guesses, so their curiosity, creativity will be increased. The key point is that they should always be working with the words that they already know. They should not actually ask the teacher, what is that? What is this word? So if they ask questions like that, it means that you're not triggering their minds. You're not using the schema theory quite well to make them to help them use the words already know instead of asking new questions. So pre-reading is always for being able to use what is learned already. So it should not cause the learners in your class to ask questions, new questions about new things. Instead, they should be just telling what they've learned about this subject already. I think we should be looking at some pre-reading activities with class readers to check what we understand with that. All right, for example, let's look at this one. That's a front cover activity, which is a very good one for even young learners or primary school kids starting critical thinking skills, but not in the deep layers. So we've got the front cover. We're asking questions like, is this a man or a woman? Is this a human or an animal? Good or bad person or animal? Happy, sad, big, small? Do you think you will like it? You will like it? You will like him? etc. So all of the questions are open to imagination, imaginative situations, and they will make guesses, and they will be checked later when they read the actual page about it. All right. So other pre-reading techniques, just have a look at some of them as well, not only the front cover page, but also titles and subtitles and other work. All right. Without looking at the characters inside, giving a name to the students and letting them draw it how they imagine without looking at the pages could be a very good character work. So they should think, create, they should share it with their peers, and it could be a collaborative activity. When they start reading the book, they could check what they've imagined, and it's a very good practice for them to describe them with the words that they already know, and later, after learning the new words in the book, to describe them again and to see the actual characters in the book. All right, I think it's a bit difficult to manage the slides because I was using the slides as I wanted, so I'm sorry to spend time on it, but can we go on a bit more to the next slides? Can I have okay, can we go back first? I'm so sorry. Go back. Let me check if I haven't covered any slides over there. Right, one more please. Right, and one more please. Yeah, okay, so slowly now let's go forward. Yeah, we talked about that. And yes, okay. So on the front cover or back cover pictures, we could have lots of activities, like for this character, write 5 words, for example. For this character, if they know, all right, write 3 descriptions, for example. Write 3 thoughts, for example, 5 feelings, for example. So you could expand it according to the age and level of the students. So it could be expanded along with the levels and the age groups of the students. It's open to the teacher's imagination as well. So yes, one more, please. The next slide. You could give questions according to the level and the age group, of course, of the students. So are there any other characters in the story? These are all guessing questions. Who do you think? What will each character do in the story? Who will do good things? Who will do bad things? Who will do, is this a happy or a sad story? Who is the funniest? Why? Could you give reasons? And there are questions like that. Again, you could use these as pre, later, while, and later post questions by organizing them, the language of the questions, so properly for all stages, pre, while, and post. All right, let's go on with the next slide, please. Yeah. I like working with quotes for critical thinking, right? Who told these? Who could be? Who may? Right? So again, according to the age group and the level of the students, you could expand these, limit these. You could change the language. You could change the level. You could work on them. You could play with them. All right, let's go on. And I like using quotes for pre, while, post class reading techniques. So next one, please. Yeah. For example, I like preparing such digital worksheets and covering the page, front page, and what can you see? What are they? Where are they? When is it? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night. How many things are there in this picture? So again, it's open to your imagination. You you could expand the number of the questions over here and change whatever the age group, whatever the level of the students. Accordingly, you could have alterations. Next one, please. Yeah. Am I a rabbit or a dog? For example, for very young learners, am I happy or sad? So optional answers. So if you could simplify the questions like that if you like. So please ask your friend, where am I? What am I doing here? What are these mice doing here? Why am I in bed? What is that on my tail? Right? So please talk with your friend and tell me 5 things about me. So the characters are talking. And I like these to be adapted for while and post questions as well. And that time you'll be working with the pictures or animated materials or whatever you've got. Mostly digital worksheets could be working quite well. And so these questions could be reorganized level wise and age wise, and you could work on them for each stage of the lesson, pre, while and post, with class readers. The best thing is that it's ongoing, so there's a story going on there, so you could create a lot of creative content along with that, starting with the pre-reading work. All right, next one please. And I like the question the most, what is next? Right, so that was the next. Can we go back to the previous slide, please, very quickly? Can you tell what is happening next? Very, very creative question. So again, they will imagine, they will guess, produce predictions, which is very nice, isn't it? The next one, please. Yeah. So I like imaginary conversations. These could be, of course, unstructured, but later you could, while reading the class reader and post reading, they could produce more structured conversations if you like, but we don't care. So pre-reading means guessing. Pre-reading means triggering their imagination and making predictions, producing predictions, which is very good for their critical thinking skills. So whatever you imagine, it could be blank, it could be completed as a half text, and it's up to you, however you use it. All right, the next one, please. Again, I like to use this one as pre, post, while, whatever phase, but as a pre-work, it's essential, really. Okay, so are the mice saying anything to Scratch? Scratch is the main character. What are they saying? All right, so again, imaginary dialogues here. All right, maybe we should go on a bit faster. The next one, please. Yeah. All right. So writing short summaries from the cover, back cover or front cover. So starting with summaries, very short summaries. Age and level matters, of course, and so it could be put in a box. We call it a message in the box, for example. So later they could open, check it as the post reading, how much of their guesses were okay, how much of their summaries, how much of the plot, how much of the character work. So there's a very good check control in between, a personal check by themselves to see what they were thinking in the beginning and what happened while reading that, how they were thinking about it, and then what now are they thinking related to the content, the story. Okay. Next one, please. Yeah. All right. So, of course, not only thoughts, feelings could be considered as ideas. Do you like cats? Do you like mice? Do you like bugs? Because, but if the age group is not very high, so because we do not need hints, but at least they could say yes and no. But when the age and level increases, so more language is added into it. All right. Okay. So again, pre-reading or while reading, you could combine, you could reuse, you could arrange, rearrange, adapt all of the strategies and techniques as pre, while, and post phases. It's up to you. For example, listening from the tape, stopping at each page when you start reading, that we call while reading, after the pre-reading activities. So guessing what's going to happen on the next page. So finishing the story in that way, which would be wonderful. For each page, they would make guesses. So instead of reading it plainly, looking at one page, reading it, talking about it, and guessing the next page, guessing about the next page, and then talking in that way. It's not only the teacher asking the class as a whole, the teacher telling them, ask it to your friend, talk with your peer, talk in groups. So it could be more collaborative. So critical thinking becomes a very collaborative group action, as Etienne Wenger describes. So wonderful collective, actually cooperative and collaborative work. So while going through the story, you could be handling the vocabulary as well with many techniques that we cannot mention today because there's no time for it, how to deal with vocabulary. But of course, age matters while dealing with the vocabulary. With young learners, very young learners, we've got very holistic strategies to see the whole picture, to see the whole scene, to listen to the whole actually recording, and to make guesses with the help of them. So they need hints, but older ages could work with texts, written texts, and they could pick up the hints from the written text with the help of course, the visuals. And everybody need hints. Everybody need clues for making guesses. So vocabulary should not be something that, what is it? Read it from the dictionary action. It should be something you put effort, time for it. But we haven't got time to cover it at the moment. So the next slide, please. Yeah. So if pre-reading is a source of guessing and being prepared for the whole reading through collaborative action and prediction and creativity, while reading is also should be, sorry, not is, a source of the same things: creativity, collaboration, communication, thinking critically, etc. So what we see during the while reading sessions, so we look at the general meaning, we cover pronunciation, we deal with language, style, and form, and we make deductions about the meaning. Comprehension is a key thing, and interpretation, personal interpretations to make meanings, and personalization to look at the story from their own stances. All right, I think we've got, the time is about to be over, is it? Yeah. All right, so next slide, please. Yeah. Can we take 5 minutes as well?
Yes, sure,
To
John.
share?
On our behalf, there's no problem. We just don't want to take your time.
All right, all right. Okay, right. So yes, with pre-reading, with the knowledge of schema theory, we recalled their background knowledge. We helped them be ready for the content in the class reader with guesses and imaginary work. And then the next slide, what with while reading activities. The next one, please. Yeah. We just help them detect what is written in the content through their own meaning-making procedures, and having a chance to compare what they've taught in the beginning and what's happening now. All right. So if you remember the techniques for while reading, of course, again, more or less the same techniques such as jigsaw, silent reading. We remember that jigsaw reading is sharing, exchanging the parts that we read and talking about quotes from the story, picture ordering, interviews with the characters, students as teachers teaching, retelling the story and the parts of the story, changing the language. So from the past to present, from the present to past, or from sad tone to happy, from an upset one to cheerful, things like that. So visual, digital materials such as cyber guides, for example, virtual tours based on the book, if we can create it as today's teachers with digital skills, and diary writing about the characters, the flow of events, and everything in the content, and picking adjectives for descriptions of places, characters, events, and everything, and creating monologues and dialogues for characters, for everything going on there. All right. So these while reading techniques and activities will help a lot to detect the actual story in the class reader. So everything here could be printed or digital. Of course, it's up to your preference again, but it's important to consider the preferences of the students, tendencies of the students as well. What about the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. So to expand the digital use, of course, filmmaking, trailer making, as if there are films, for example. So billboard making, I like these techniques as well, which could be used, some of them could be used as pre-reading for class readers, and some of them could be perfect for post-reading as well. But for while reading, they could be very suitable. So for settings, for context, map making, etc., these are also very good. And I think I'll pass this one. That was an example. So since we haven't got time, so we could go on with, right, some other activities over here. For while activities, still you could be using the pictures from the book this time, not the front cover, because there are different actions within the story, flow within the story. So you could use these as a source of language for anything. For example, is scratch singing, is scratch dancing, jumping is a very good practice for the present moment, present time. And it could be mentioning the past time or future time. It could be mentioning anything related to the language use. I'm not saying the structure itself. I'm talking about the time period for students to learn the concept of time, for example. Here, there's a concept of time, practice of concept of time, which is very good to looking at the actions of the character and to organize some triggering questions about that. So you could use all pages digitally, create different working pages, worksheet pages, and every page could be a source of a different corner of the language use. Very rich, very, very versatile, actually, source for you to go on with that. All right, the next one, please, very quickly. And okay, again, another example of for the scene in the book. So again, any questions that you could be organizing. All right, let's go on with the next one, please. Okay. So are we going to practice sports? Are we going to practice home activities, everyday activities? Are we going to practice, for example, jobs? Are we going whatever? So you could concentrate on the questions like that. So you could be providing varieties over here for the students to think, work. So all levels within the same class as mixed ability, they could work in their own pace with such questions, because there's time for thinking, looking at the questions, looking at the picture for a while, and thinking about them to be able to produce something on that. What about the next slide? So let's work on another work which could be used as while or post reading activity for class readers. I like to use such work for pre-reading as well, to make guesses about the characters. I could put the pictures of the characters, and they could make guesses about it. All right. So then later they could compare their ideas about the characters when they finish, which is a very good opportunity for them to think about the characters. So here, for example, character name, appearance, we need a physical description, and actions, what is he doing, she is doing in the story, and their thoughts, their speeches, what did they tell, and what that quote mean, what that speech mean over there, and reactions from others to that character. For example, for some older ages, that's a very good way of organization of thoughts for students. While reading, they could check with them. So they could be checking lots of things. You cannot cover such things only with display questions. What's he doing? What did he say? So it's very plain and boring, but working on such paradigms with their friends, peers, would be more versatile for them. But we always remember the 21st century skills, especially the critical thinking skills, how to trigger them, how to help them for triggering, of course, those skills. All right. Yes. So you could be working on characters and their features, physical features or personal traits. With such lists, they could be choosing from. So this could be this could be used as pre-reading, while reading, or post-reading again. So for characters, if you organize such activities from the beginning in advance, so it could be pre, and when you finish to sum up, to consolidate, it could be post. So it's again up to your decisions. We can also, please, the next slide, yeah. Posters, for example, for the characters in the book class readers. So wanted poster that we have descriptions of physical features of the character, and also some important personal traits as well. So again, this could be pre, while, and post, but the post would be quite good actually to consolidate, to revise everything about the characters. But as a while activity, I like it as well. So fact files, the next one. Fact files is a very good post and while activity for the characters, and they could be remembering, recalling lots of things about the character mentioned in the story class reader. And also they could work with words, wordgrams. The next slide, please. Yeah. And word maps, wordgrams, spidergrams, it has got many names. So they could have associations about the features or traits of the characters, or this could be for events, this could be for notions, this could be for concepts, this could be for anything in the content. So that's going to be a very good chance for them to deal with during the while reading session, or when they finish, to consolidate during the post-reading session. Organizers are very good for class readers. So main ideas in the story, title of the story, setting of the story, characters of the story, problems in the story, solutions, and the main theme in the story. So again, I like this as a post reading or while reading. So we've got maps. That's a very good while reading phase activity for class readers. So who, what did they do, what's happening, when, why, where. So very nice to have a good plot of things to think about, the components of plot for every age group. Of course, you could change the visuals. This is a very young learner matter, but you could change it for any age group with a more serious looking or fun looking things. All right, so I like the logs as well to remember the flow of the events in the story. That is helping a lot for critical thinking. So what happened, after that, what happened? So to have connections and relationships among or between the events. So it's a very good way to organize your mind about the story, what's happening in the story. And the next one, please. Yeah. All right. Flow charts are similar. They are like logs. They are showing the flow of the events in the story. So they could have logical connections. Again, what happened next thing, which they started with the pre-reading activities in the beginning. And also, let's go on with the next one. Yes. I like the critical incidence things. The next slide with the green one. Can I have that one, please? Yeah. All right. So there are turning points in all stories, even in kindergarten books. So in all storybooks, class readers, there are climate things. So there are critical things that we call critical incidents. And so to deal with them, especially for older groups, when did it happen? Where, how, why, with whom? What are the results and what do you think? So there is reflection as well here, which I like a lot. So reflection, what do you think? What do you think about this? How do you feel about it? Such reflective questions are wonderful to check their own learning by themselves, of course. So whenever possible, I think for critical thinking activities and strategies, we should be remembering reflection helps a lot to go back, to think about them, the process and everything, what they've done, what they've thought, what they've succeeded in thinking. So that's a very good opportunity to give them, in terms of time as well, to scan so far. So to have some points about what was happening. All right, very quickly. All right. So we've talked about how to integrate critical thinking by mostly digital today, maybe, but also it could be printed, doesn't matter. It's up to your preference. Strategies or techniques or activities. Actually, for making your decisions about critical thinking activities, is it really open to critical thinking? We should be knowing some things about it. So what is critical thinking actually? It means that determining the fact, there is a fact, always a fact for critical thinking. What is the fact? Scratch is a cat, it's a fact, right? You cannot change it. It's not a rabbit, it's a fact. The factual information over here is that Scratch is the main character and he's a cat. So then opinion stage comes later. He's an ugly cat. It's an opinion thing, isn't it? Up to any person from their own perspective. So maybe some people will think that Scratch is a nice cat, beautiful cat, but that's an opinion question. Then we make judgments about the facts and opinions later. Scratch is an ugly cat because it is very dirty, and also her fur is not clear, is not proper. So you could go on with that. So you have to give your rationale for your opinion. Critical thinking is based on these 3 steps. There's a fact to understand, there's an opinion to produce on the fact, and then you've got judgments about the opinions. The thing is that, have you got rationales to actualize your opinions? According to whom that could be accepted. All right. So we should never be forgetting this, that for working on critical thinking, what is the fact, how students would produce opinions on them, and what about the judgment stage? Like Ankara is the capital of Turkey. That's a fact, isn't it? No one can change it. So Ankara is a very bad city. Who will say it? Everybody can say it. Anybody can say it. That's an opinion. But what is the judgment part of it? What kind of rationales could be given from that stance? That is important. So everybody, as I told you from the beginning, class readers help readers to produce their own perspectives from their own stance. So critical activities is helping this. To understand the fact, which is the content in the book, to produce opinions and to make judgments. So if we know this, we could be arranging our activities accordingly. So based on 3 steps of critical thinking. For young learners, very young learners, very difficult because we rely on pictures, visuals, not deep thinking. But guesses, predictions help a lot. For other ages, older ages, we've got more materials to let them, help them think at deeper levels. So we could help them think more on actually the content, with facts in the content and opinions on the facts and judgments of them. What about the next slide? Yeah. Okay, so
Hocam,
we're about to finish it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just I remember that we have only 10 minutes left. Then it will be automatically closed down.
all right. So,
So it's going to be out of my control.
Yeah. I'm rapid.
Okay.
Yeah, rapid. So, right. Whatever I've told you so far is valid for post reading as well. If we know how to apply these fact, opinion, and judgment things in our work according to age group and also level of the students, let's have a very quick look at the techniques and activities just with the post-reading mind. The previous ones, we looked at them with pre and while reading mind. Let's look at these as post-reading mind, which aim to consolidate, revise, and checking understanding. And we should not be forgetting, reflecting is the last stage after finishing even the post-reading state. So let's have a look at the activities over here very quickly for post-reading, and then we're going to be finishing. Okay, so can we go back to the previous slide, please? Yeah. For example, this one, not very young learners, not for young learners, but you know, for teenagers, for example, for upper ages, facts and opinions. So you could have some sheets about the reader like this. So facts and opinion sheets will help them to separate these and to detect them, understand them, use them properly. All right, let's go on, please. Yeah, with the slides very quickly. Okay. Okay. So we talked about that. It's post-reading and it's for consolidation and comprehension. More personalization, it ends with reflection. Can we have a look at the post-reading activities after one slide? So we've got many post-reading activities, such as silent conversations, writing a story, and giving to a peer and responding, the other peer responding to that. Fishbowl, for example, 2 or 4 students in a circle talk about a text, and the text is the class reader text, and they rotate it, create conversations, observations. So they discuss the story once more again. Of course, this is for elder and older groups and more, upper levels, let's say. Let's go on, please. Yeah. So let's have a look at the list of the techniques. Dramatic monologues or dialogues, if the characters are out of the story, writing emails to the characters, writing messages, letters to the characters, and descriptions with adjectives, blog writing about the events, roundtable discussions, writing a review about the story, such as an article, for example, as if it's an article, and writing an email to the author, criticizing, and surfing the net about the book after finishing the story, creating a timeline, changing the way that that the characters act, drawing the most important thing in the story and talking about it, why it is important, and who do the students, what any characters in the story for friends, why. So it could be actually going on the next slide to finish, and interview with classmates about the story, writing about the characters, interview with the author, time travel, writing a biography, autobiography, change the language of the story, before, after lists, literature circles. They read at home and then they come and talk in the class, rewriting the story, creating their own version, their own questions, their own flow, their own ending, their own beginning. They could do lots of actually work as post reading with class readers. Yes, the next and the last slide. Yes. Changing the flow, voice recording, creating video of the story, creating ebook version, interactive version of the story, speculation, changing the story to speculate, newspaper article to make it as a newspaper article, map making for the setting, film making, trailer making, billboard making, the same things that we talked about while reading sessions. So at the end of the day, you could apply anything like this. You could adapt anything like this for pre, while, and post work. But what remains in our minds is that they should be aware of the facts. So there's something in the story as information. If they do not know it, they cannot produce opinions, which makes it a critical thinking strategy. So if you are careful about this while preparing such work, I think it's going to be working quite well in our class readers, reading sessions. This is not only class readers, this is for all kinds of reading, listening work, because it's for receptive skills, but it is combined with very productive skills. We should not be forgetting it. So this is the end of the session. I hope we were able to, combine lots of things in a very limited period of time. Thank you very much for attending the seminar. I think we haven't got time to expand it. So thank you then for everybody coming and joining us today.
Thank you, Hocam, for accepting the invitation and giving us this informative speech. For those who are interested in, like, this was not the first webinar of this project. We are conducting Erasmus Plus projects, and we have our own website and also a YouTube channel. You can reach out to the other webinar recordings and this one also will take place there. Thank you all for attending, and thank you once again, Kamile Hocam, for accepting this invitation.
Thank you. I'm
I'm
reading.
sending
Sorry.
the
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Goodbye then to everyone. Thank you.
goodbye.
Bye.